Hello, welcome to the Craig Dallas Rice Show. And today we're going to be talking to an imam from a mosque in Keene. Did you even know there was a mosque in Keene? Well, we're going to find out more about that. Today my guest is Will Coley. He's the imam of the MALIC Center. And I'm going to let him tell the whole name because I'm a little verklempt of the whole pronunciation thing. So, welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Could you tell us the whole name of the MALIC Center?
Yeah, well, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah. The name is Masjid Latiff and Interfaith Community Center. That's where we got MALIC, was Masjid Latiff and Interfaith Community, MALIC. Al-Latif is one of the 99 attributes of God. It's the one who doesn't need force. So like he speaks and things exist. He doesn't need a hammer and a chisel, that kind of thing. And Malik also happens to be an attribute of God. It means the sovereign. So we were lucky that we were able to find a way to mash two of those, exalted names in our community into the name of our little house of prayer.
Well, I can certainly appreciate that because I can pronounce Malik.
Yeah.
I typically ask my guests, and I'm going to ask you, how did you get involved with, how did you become an imam, or, do you don't have to go into all the details, but, tell us, how you became an imam here in Keene, and what are you trying to do here with the MALIC Center?
Well, Imam is basically a term. It just means whoever's leading the prayer. So, my 8-year-old could be the imam if I wasn't home. Mm-hmm. I am the director and I guess you could say the face and the leader of the local Muslim community because it kind of fell in my lap. I've been Muslim for about 11 years now, and I met my wife. I used to lecture on Islamic studies at the University of Central Florida. And we got into some activism work through that, and that took me to Tennessee, which got me hooked up with some other people, and we were doing an event in Lancaster, New Hampshire. And I noticed that one year that event coincided with the end of that event was the last day of that event was the first day of Ramadan. So I decided to raise some money, and we would give away free food because for Ramadan, Muslims, we don't eat or drink unless you have health issues that prevent you from doing so from the time the sun rises until sunset. And then at sunset, the community all come together and they have a big meal together. And I thought, why don't we do that big meal and just give it away to all the people at the festival? And we did that year, and you can find a short documentary about that on YouTube called Ramadan at Pork Fest, pork with a C. And then we decided, well, you know what? Let's do it again next year. And next year, Ramadan will be through the whole week. So let's do it all week. Let's show up on Sunday, feed free food Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Every day we'll give away more food than we did the day before. So we did that. And the directors of the Shire Free Church were there when we were doing that. And they were really inspired by what we were doing, and they asked about the possibility of opening a mosque in Keene if there was a building that was donated. And I expressed an interest in it, and we had a friend that was actually left San Diego, California, and was driving here. And his mother had some health issues, and he had to go back, so the whole thing fell through. So then another year went by, and it wasn't really discussed. And then the next year, it was brought up again. Well, what about the mosque idea? And some things in our life had just kind of fell together. And so we raised, a few $1,000s, gave up our lives in Tennessee, our jobs, our homes, our families, our communities, and moved about 1,600 miles north. Had never lived above the Mason-Dixon line in my whole life, so it was an interesting cultural change. And we've been open for about a year now, just under a year. Be a year the Friday after Thanksgiving will be a year that we've been open. And we came here to be members of the community. You know, we're involved with Keene Rocks, which is an effort to kind of spread good cheer around town. We also, let's see here, we do an event at the Keene State College weekly where we go out and give out information and host interfaith talks. So they're not really talks about Islam. It's, you know, come up and talk about whatever you want. You know, are you a Jewish student? You got a question for the Christian kids? Well, then come up. Our tent is a place for these kind of interactions to happen. And, you know, that's kind of where we are now. We're working on putting a feeding program together. We want to go downtown and literally just show up and feed whoever wants. You know, are you homeless? Awesome. Are you not homeless? Awesome. Just come have a bowl of food. Come sit with and meet some of your members of the Muslim community and have a free bowl of vegetarian food. We've raised enough money. I think we're going to be able to pull it off. We want to do Fuel for Finals, where we'll show up at the university during finals week and we will give away free food at lunchtime to any of the students that come up and get it. Because, you know, at the end of the school semester, these kids are broke. They haven't eaten a decent meal probably in weeks. They're living on ramen noodles and energy drinks, and a good bowl of vegetarian food with rice will help them study better, help them perform better on their tests, and, be another thing that we can do kind of to give back to the local Keene community.
Right. And you know, we've been talking about food a little bit here, and I want to say to the viewers that I'd like to educate you guys when I can. Pork Fest. It's P-O-R-C because it's porcupine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a festival where everybody eats pork by any means.
No bacon.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd like to do educationally here is I found what I consider a great video. We'll see maybe what you think of it after the video. But let's watch a video that I got off the Oprah Winfrey Network, and it's a little bit about the Muslim faith.
Islam is the second largest religion in the world with over 1.5 billion followers. And like Christianity, Islam is a transnational religion, meaning that there are Muslims living in every country in the world, and there are many countries that are majority Muslim. Most Muslims will think of themselves as either Shia or Sunni, but there is tremendous diversity even within Shia Islam and within Sunni Islam that's often regionally dependent. Islam literally means submission, and so Muslims see themselves as coming to God with great humility. And for Muslims, submitting to God creates a radical sense of equality. The most sacred text for Muslims is the Holy Quran, which most Muslims believe is the direct word of God, as revealed to Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. And even though Muslims hold Christian and Jewish prophetic lineages as authoritative, for Muslims, the most important prophet and the final prophet is Muhammad. Muhammad brought Judeo-Christian monotheism to the Arab people about 1,300 years ago. One of the most misunderstood concepts in Islam is that of jihad, which many people interpret as a holy war. But there is nothing holy about war. And what jihad actually represents is an internal struggle, the battle that's raging in our own heart. And all of our religious traditions talk about that internal struggle. In that respect, jihad isn't just a Muslim idea, but it's a reality of the human condition. In order to understand what animates Muslim life, it's helpful to think about the 5 pillars of Islam, which is an aspiration that most Muslims around the world have. The first pillar is Shahada, or the recitation of faith. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. The second pillar is Salat, or ritual prayer 5 times a day facing in the direction of Mecca, the holiest of Muslim sites. The third pillar is Zakat, or charitable giving to the poor. A certain percentage of your salary every year would be given for philanthropy. The fourth pillar is Ramadan, or fasting during the holy month. That month changes each year. It's based on a lunar calendar, but Muslims will generally fast for a full month. For Muslims, developing a type of self-discipline through fasting will help ensure that they are able to follow the other tenets of their faith in a way that is equally rigorous and devotional. And the fifth pillar is Hajj, or the aspiration to undertake a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in your life. And through these 5 pillars, we see a global sense of community amongst Muslims, a shared sense of experience that really connects Muslims across time and space.
Well, I just wanted to show that because I wanted people to understand a little bit about the Muslim faith if they didn't know much about it before. I'm really more interested in finding out what is going on. Like for instance, something about Keene Rocks you mentioned.
Yeah, Keene Rocks.
Tell
Keene
us a
Rocks,
little bit more about that. Sounds like a musical thing. Is any music involved? Like rock and roll?
I mean, there could be if you wanted to paint a rock and roll song on a rock. But Keene Rocks is basically an effort by locals here. It gets kids excited about art. It gets locals excited to go out and do stuff. Plus, when you're on your way to a job, like this happened to my wife. When you're on your way to a job interview and you look down and there's a rock that's painted with a giant sunshine on it, and it says like, "This is your day," then that really it inspires people. It makes people feel good, and we saw it. We thought it was a great effort. We do some of the inspirational things. Then we also take quotes from popular poets and scholars of the Islamic tradition. We did a couple that say, "A smile is a form of charity," which is a famous saying by the Prophet Muhammad, and we painted that on a few pretty rocks. Another was, "Why think so small when you are the universe in constant motion," which is a quote from Jalaluddin Rumi, who one of my sons is named after, who's the father of the Mevlevi order of Sufism. So we got involved in that because we just thought it was kind of a cute, fun thing. It encourages our kids to get out and exercise. They're like, "We want to go walk around downtown. Come on, we want to go. Instead of, we want to sit and play video games, we want to watch TV, we want to do these things that aren't really productive or good for them. They want to go downtown and just look around and try to find these little rocks that say cool things or have cartoon characters painted on them. So that's why we got involved. We thought it was kind of a fun little project.
See, now I know. I saw a rock the other day.
Yeah.
And it was painted, had like a heart on it, and I think it said something like "I love you" or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, some poor kid forgot their rock.
No,
and I
no.
thought about, I was at the co-op, I think, and I thought about like taking the rock in and saying, "Hey, somebody lost it." But then I thought, well, I'll just leave it there because then if my reasoning was, if they lost it, then they go back and find it in the same place they lost it. But now I realize it was not lost at all.
Yeah, some little kid who was going probably put it there, and then another little kid sees it and takes it with them and hides it somewhere else downtown for another person to find.
That is cool. That is really
it's like
cool.
a non-stop city-wide scavenger hunt because you can go to all the parks, you can find them at Target, basically all over the city of Keene. You just bump into them, and it's because I think like our family has put out at least 100 of them.
Right.
And there are lots of other families. Just go to #KeeneRocks on Facebook, and they ask that if you find a rock, you take a picture with it, put the picture there, and then hide it somewhere else.
Oh, speaking of Facebook, I know that the MALIC Center has its own page on Facebook. Do you have a website too?
We don't. We don't have a website. We've got the Facebook page. We broadcast all of our Friday sermons on Facebook live, and then we, save them there for posterity. We hopefully will also eventually be playing them here on the Cheshire TV network. We're working on putting our first video together to see how it works. But yeah, every Friday at 1 o'clock in the summer months, and then after the time change, that will move back to 12 o'clock. The local Muslim community gets together. We have a short sermon of about 30 minutes. Sometimes we have food and hot tea and stuff afterward that you can enjoy, and it lasts about a half an hour. Then we pray and everybody goes back to work.
And I can say that I have been there for one of the services. I went with a friend.
When you were there?
You did have food after,
food.
yeah. And I had some sort of nice pastry and some hot tea. It was excellent.
Yep.
And everyone was very welcoming. Had some interesting conversations and got to meet a lot of the people that I'm sure worship there on a regular basis. Some of them brought their children with them. And it's a very welcoming, and if you get the feeling that everyone is welcome, like it's an interfaith center. And I know that that Fridays at 1 o'clock it's 1 o'clock, right? Okay, is the Muslim service. But there's other services. Maybe someone of a different faith might check to see if there's something going on.
So far, what we've mainly had is you have people who live here who have moved here from out of state, and they don't really have family here. So at Thanksgiving this year and at Christmas time this year, we provided, because we've got the Interfaith space, we provided a space for a number of local families to get together and have, an opportunity to not do Thanksgiving alone.
Yes.
Not have a holiday dinner alone.
That is depressing for people.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly.
At a time when you're away from your family, or some could be even someone going through a divorce or something, and and it's like they're just really, their first Thanksgiving or second Thanksgiving, without
Yeah.
that
we
kind of
had
family.
15 to 20 people at both events, and it was just a potluck. People showed up with a dish that they wanted to bring. It was beautiful, because that's really what we were created to do, was do this thing where we bring people together, and that's really been what the work that I did before I moved here was devoted to 100%, particularly with food. There's a saying of the Prophet Muhammad where Malik ibn Anas came to him and asked him a question, and he says, O Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what act is the best act to commit as a Muslim? If you're a Muslim and you want to do good deeds, what are the best deeds? And he says, to feed the people and to greet those whom you know and those whom you do not with greetings of peace. So I was like, well, how about if you built a movement around that idea? Just giving people food and using that as a way to be like, hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm Will, I'm Muslim. Here, have some food.
Right.
How are you today? And basically build a movement around that kind of thing. There's also a Pakistani proverb that's particularly popular that says, if you stay long enough to share 3 cups of tea with a man, you're no longer a stranger, you're now family. And I kind of relate that to being from Appalachia in the South. My mother always said, if you've been to our house to eat, then you can get your own glass of water, because now you're family.
Right, I like that.
You
Yeah,
know?
that makes sense.
Yeah,
all the
so
way.
once
Yes.
you've been here and you've eaten a meal in our home, you're now a part of our family. And that's what we kind of try to build our whole activism and outreach model around, was creating these relationships and doing it through just being good to each other and sharing food.
Food is a definite good way to bring people together.
Oh, yeah.
Always, as long as it's good food.
It's really hard to hate somebody while you're like, thank you. Like, it's kind of hard to be like, I hate you. This is really good, but sure.
You're so more of a comedian. Do you ever use comedy when you're? Have you ever
like in the khutbas? Yeah. I from time to time, it helps get messages across. People pay attention to you more, I think, if they're more engaged.
I can't remember the guy who said this. I think it was an Irish poet, writer, and he said, if you want to tell people the truth, you better make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Yeah, very true.
So it's always good to have some humor at your beck and call, right?
Right.
Well, I noticed that you also you mentioned bringing something downtown to feed people.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, can you just go over, like, is it a particular day each month, or?
Well, we haven't really gotten to that. We wanted to do the first Fridays. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to come out, because that's an automatic audience, like there's already people there. But those are kind of winding down a little bit, it would seem, at this time of the year. So we may just decide, to show up. The Supreme Court's ruled that activism that's built around food is First Amendment protected. So,
Good.
We may just show up one day and be like, so we're here. You 10 people that are always downtown, have a bowl of food, call your friends.
Yeah.
And we'll probably come ready to feed about 200 people. And, hopefully that's, I won't have to eat too much of it myself.
I would have to say that for Keene, that would be a big happening.
Yeah.
If even 20 people showed up for a meal on Main Street.
Yeah.
That would get people would be talking about that for a while.
Well, I figure if we show up and it's a day that everybody's open, and they hear the words free Indian food as people are walking by, people will be like, hey, can you watch my register for a minute? I'll be right back. I'll get you a bowl while I'm there. And that could be a way that we, kind of spread that around through the businesses, and then the next time we show up, people will have already known that it happened and be talking about it. And when they call their friend and they're like, so that guy with the Indian food's here, the Muslims, then people will drive down. I mean, Keene's only 3 miles across from end to end, so, I mean, it's not like they'll have very far to run, walk, or drive.
Right. Hey, real quick, because we're running out of time. We're going to be out of time soon. You said, or we had talked earlier, and I asked if you had ever been to Hajj. Okay, Hajj. And that's where the gathering at Mecca.
It's very, very expensive. You have to buy these special travel packages and stuff. But even with all that, there's a famous story about his name was Ibn al-Qufl. He was a famous scholar, and he was known like he would go out and do dawah and jihad for 1 year, and then he would go and make Hajj the next. And he had a dream, and in the dream there were 2 angels talking to each other. And the one angel said to the other, like, how many people made Hajj this year? And he's like, 700,000 people were here. And he says, okay, well, but how many people's Hajj was accepted? And the other angel said, only 1. And his name, and he told the man the name, and that he was a cobbler and that he lives in Damascus. So when Ibn al-Qufl woke, he went straight away to Damascus, and he found this Ibn Muttalib, and he's like, Ibn Mubarak. And he's like, are you Ibn Mubarak? And he's like, yes, I'm Ibn Mubarak, I'm a cobbler. And he says, he tells him the story about his dream. And he says, that's funny because 20 years I've saved money to go to Hajj. And my wife is pregnant, and she heard a neighbor, she could smell food coming from a neighbor's house. And so I went to the neighbor and I said, my wife, she's pregnant and she smells the meat that you're cooking and she would really like to have some. And the woman says, I would love to, but I can't because it's halal for me, but it's haram for you. And it's forbidden and permissible. And so Ibn Mubarak says, how is it okay for you to eat, but wrong for me? And she says, well, my children have been starving. And on the way home, I found a dead donkey in the road. And I cut some of the meat off and I've brought it home to feed my children, so you can't have it because it's carrion. So he went home and he took all the money that he had been saving for his Hajj and he gave it to that woman. So his Hajj was accepted by God and he never left Damascus. And that was always a really inspirational story,
It really is. It really is. And I'm glad you got the chance to tell us because we're almost out of time. Just tell the viewers one more time if you want to, how to find information on the MALIC Center.
Just look up Mosque in Keene. Look at MALIC Center, Keene. We're on Google Maps. We're on Zabiha.com. We're on Salatomatic.
You're really easy to find.
Yeah,
I can say that. It's right off of Route 101.
659 Marlboro Street, right off of Route 1, just as you cross the bridge headed toward Marlboro.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Will.
Thanks for having us.
And I hope we can have another show together.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to do a song now as I do at the end of each show. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you'll come back next week and see me at the Craig Dallas Rice Show. This song by a favorite musician of mine, James Taylor, is called Country Road. Take to the highway, won't you lend me your name? Your way and my way seem to be one and the same. Mama don't understand it. No, she wants to know where I've been. I'd have to be some kind of natural born fool to want to pass that way again, yeah. And I can feel it, child. Walking down a country road. Sail on home to Jesus, won't you, good girls and boys? I'm all in pieces, but you can have your own choice. I see a heavenly band of angels, and they're coming to set me free. I don't know much about the wild wind, but I can tell you that it's bound to be, yeah. And you know I can feel it. Walking down a country road, I guess my feet know where they want me to go. Yeah, walking down a country road. Walk on down, walk on down, walk on down, walk on down a country road. La 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 la. Yeah, walking down a country road. Take to the highway, won't you lend me your name? Your way and my way seem to be one and the same. Mama don't understand it, but no, she wants to know where I've been. I don't know much about the wild wind, but I can tell you that it's bound to be, yeah. And you know I can feel it. Walking down a country road. Yeah, walking down a country road. Thank you for watching the Craig Dowell's Rice Show, and I'll see you again next week. Rock on, folks.